only for family. When I asked my mom about the Hawaii trip, the one I'd spent $22,000 planning, she said it like it meant nothing. Oh, we already went last week. Just family. My phone almost slipped from my hand. Just family. The words hit colder than the buffalo snow outside my window. I'd drained my savings, trying to hold that family together after my divorce. And somehow, I was the one left out. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I poured a drink, sat by the window, and stared down at the frozen street below. Because if they thought they could erase me that easily, they were about to learn what family really costs. After my marriage fell apart, I told myself my family would be my anchor. When the house grew too quiet, when every room echoed with absence, I thought going home would make it better. Instead, it made me smaller. I rented a one-bedroom in Buffalo, the kind with old radiators that hissed all night like they were alive. My finance job kept me busy enough to function, but never enough to forget. So I did what I knew best: numbers, spreadsheets, structure, control. Every time my mom called about money being tight, I covered it. When Dad's car broke down, I paid the repair shop over the phone. Erin, my sister, called only when she needed something: rent, bills, a new laptop for her courses. I never questioned it. I just wired the money and told myself it was love. Over 2 years, the payments blurred into habit. Rent, groceries, utilities, quiet giving that empties you little by little. I told my therapist I couldn't afford sessions anymore. Truth was, I just couldn't justify spending on myself. I started keeping a spreadsheet labeled family expenses, as if neat columns could make it feel less like being used. When I first suggested the Hawaii trip, Mom sounded thrilled. "We all need a reset," she'd said. For the first time in years, I felt hopeful. I imagined sunlight on our faces, laughter echoing between us, forgiveness tucked inside ocean waves. It felt like a second chance. I spent weeks comparing hotels, choosing one with ocean views and breakfast included. I booked snorkeling tour, sunset dinners, airport transfers, every detail perfect. I told myself the money didn't matter. Maybe if they saw how much I wanted us to heal, they'd see me differently. Not the daughter who failed, but the one who still tried. When the confirmation email arrived, I sat at my desk staring at the glow on my screen. I looked tired, but I smiled. I didn't realize hope would be the most expensive part of that trip. The next morning, Mom texted, "Got it, red heart." I smiled back. That message was the last time she made me feel included. Because betrayal doesn't start with fireworks. It starts quietly. One ignored thank you, one casual "I'll pay you back later," one favor too many. The call came on a gray Saturday, the sky the color of wet cement. I had coffee in hand, to-do list open, finally feeling like I was piecing my life back together. Then Mom's name lit up my phone. "Hey, Mom," I said cheerfully. "How's the Hawaii planning going?" Silence. Too long to be bad service. "Oh," she said finally, her tone flat. "We already went last week, only for family." At first, I thought she was joking. My laugh came out brittle. "What do you mean went? I booked those tickets, all 4. "Yes, you did," she said, smooth as glass. "It was lovely, Louisa. We just needed time together. You've been so busy." I could hear laughter in the background. Waves, seagulls, the ocean. Then she hung up. The mug slipped from my hand and shattered. Coffee ran down the cabinets like a slow bleed. The radiator hissed behind me, mocking me only for family. The rest of that day was a blur of disbelief. Maybe I'd misunderstood. Maybe there was a surprise waiting. But when I checked the hotel receipts, my name wasn't on the guest list. I'd paid every cent, but I wasn't part of the family. For days, I moved through life like a ghost, smiling in meetings, managing budgets, pretending I wasn't unraveling. Every payment I'd ever made flashed in my head like a cruel ledger. Rent, groceries, car repairs. Every sacrifice I'd made just to be enough. That night, I pulled out an old photo from Thanksgiving before the divorce. Mom and Dad stood together, Aaron beside them, arms linked. I was on the edge of the frame, holding the camera remote, half cut out. I hadn't noticed it then. Now it felt like prophecy. I didn't cry, not a tear. I just sat there in the dark and realized what I should have known all along. Love that must be purchased isn't love, it's debt. And every debt eventually comes due. A month passed, Buffalo snow turned to slush. The silence from them was louder than their voices had ever been. Then one evening my phone rang. Aaron. I almost didn't answer, but habit won. "Hey Lou," she said in that sugary tone. "The rent's late again. Could you send $2,000 just until next week?" I stared at the numbers glowing on my laptop. 2,000. I pictured her on some beach I paid for. "Only for family," I said softly. "What?" she asked, her voice cracking. "You heard me." Silence. Then she laughed, a sharp, fake laugh. "Don't be ridiculous, you've always helped us. We're family." "Not anymore," I said and hung up. My hands shook, not from fear but relief. I opened my banking app, scrolled through every automatic payment I'd ever set up. Rent transfers, car insurance, phone bills, even their Wi-Fi. Cancel, cancel, cancel. Each confirmation felt like a door slamming shut. Then I called my financial advisor. "I want to secure all my accounts," I said. "New passwords, two-factor authentication, everything." She didn't ask why. She just said, "Good move." The next morning, I drove to the bank, signed the forms, and walked out lighter. For the first time in years, I was taking control. Later that day, I called a locksmith. By evening, a man named Mike had replaced my old brass lock with a heavy deadbolt and installed a security camera. When he left, I stared at the small red light blinking above my door. For the first time, my home felt safe, mine. 2 days later, the doorbell rang. 3 sharp buzzes. I looked at my phone screen. The camera feed showed them all. Mom in her fur coat, arms crossed. Dad beside her, looking anywhere but the camera. Aaron in front, phone in hand, pretending this wasn't humiliating. And next to them, a man in a gray suit holding a briefcase. I opened the door just enough to be seen. "Louisa," Mom said, her voice clipped. "We need to talk." "I'm listening." The man in the suit cleared his throat. "Ms. Mercer, I represent your parents and sister. They're concerned about your recent financial decisions. They've asked me to mediate before this escalates." "Escalates?" I repeated. "You mean before you try to sue me for cutting off your allowance?" His jaw tightened. "They believe your behavior suggests emotional instability." Aaron smirked. "We just want to help Lou." I laughed. "Help? You excluded me from a vacation I paid for. You don't want to help, you want control." Mom snapped. "Watch your tone, we're family." "Right," I said. "Only for family, remember." Her face twitched. "Dad tried, Louisa, be reasonable. They depend on you." "They're adults, Dad. They can depend on themselves." The lawyer stepped in again. "If you refuse support, they'll file for guardianship to protect your assets." Guardianship. The word froze me. They weren't just trying to guilt me, they wanted ownership. I met his eyes. "Then I'll see you in court." And I shut the door in their faces. For a long time, I just stood there, breathing hard. They shouted through the door, threatened, pleaded. I let them, then silence. A week later, a letter arrived. Petition for guardianship, filed by Marianne George and Aaron Mercer. Reason: concerns over emotional stability and financial judgment. It was cruel, but it was them. I called my friend Janet. "They're trying to break you," she said. "You need a lawyer." She gave me a name, Daniel Price. "He doesn't scare easy," she promised. The next day, I met Daniel. He was calm, confident, the kind of man who didn't waste words. After I told him everything, he leaned back and said, "What they're doing is manipulation, but we'll prove your competence every step." We gathered everything: bank records, employment history, doctor evaluations. If they wanted to call me unstable, I'd show them stability defined. 2 weeks later, I walked into the courthouse. Cold marble floors, echoing heels. Mom, Dad, and Aaron sat across the room. Mom's eyes were sharp, Aaron's defiant, Dad's distant. Their lawyer stood first. "Your Honor, Ms. Mercer has shown erratic financial behavior and emotional distress following her divorce." Daniel rose calmly. "Your Honor, my client is not unstable. She's independent. She's a financial analyst with 10 years of spotless records, no debt, no misconduct. The only thing she's guilty of is saying no." He handed over documents, proof of every payment I'd ever made for them. Mom looked away. Aaron fidgeted. Then the judge looked at me. "Ms. Mercer, why did you cut off financial support to your family?" I took a breath, because I realized I wasn't their daughter anymore. I was their bank account. A ripple of gasps filled the courtroom. I supported them for years: rent, bills, groceries. I even paid for a family vacation, thinking it would bring us closer. When I asked about it, my mother said, "We already went, only for family." The judge's brow lifted. "And you weren't invited?" "No, Your Honor, I wasn't even told." Daniel stepped in, and when they called asking for rent again, she said, "Only for family." More murmurs. Mom's face went red. The judge scanned the papers, then looked up. "The court finds no evidence of incapacity. Petition denied." It was over. I didn't smile, not yet. Mom stood, clutching her purse. Aaron's eyes watered. Dad couldn't meet my gaze. "You wanted control," I said quietly. "Now you have none." Then I walked out. Outside, the cold air hit my face like freedom. For the first time in years, I wasn't carrying anyone else's weight. 3 months later, Buffalo thawed. The snow melted into small streams, and sunlight spilled across my new apartment floor. Smaller place, but brighter. Mine. I filled my days with peace: coffee, books, long walks, laughter. When my friends came over, one of them said, "You look lighter." "I am," I said. That night, I wrote in my journal, "Freedom isn't revenge. It's reclaiming what they took." Through a friend, I heard Aaron was working double shifts, and my parents had moved to a smaller place. I didn't feel anger, just closure. As I stood by the window, watching Buffalo glow beneath the evening sky, I whispered the words that once broke me. "Only for family." This time, they didn't hurt. This time, they meant peace.